The moment you understand this topic, you understand why I built this channel. So before we go any further, make sure you subscribe now and share this with anyone who believes survival is only about stockpiles and weapons. Today we're talking about something far older, quieter, and more powerful. During the Great Depression, millions of families survived long stretches with almost no cash at all, not because they were lucky, but because they understood how value really works when money fails. What you're about to hear isn't theory, and it isn't nostalgia. These are skills that kept people fed, clothed, and sheltered when banks collapsed and paychecks vanished, and they are just as relevant now as they were nearly a century ago. Why bartering was not a fallback, but a primary survival system. When wages disappeared in the early 1930s, bartering didn't emerge as a hobby, it became the economic bloodstream of entire communities. Cash was hoarded or simply unavailable, but labor, skills, food, and repair work still existed. People stopped asking what something cost and started asking what it could do. A repaired roof meant more than a dollar bill, and a sack of potatoes carried more certainty than a banknote. Understanding this shift is critical because bartering works best when you stop thinking in modern retail terms and start thinking in outcomes. Depression-era families survived because they understood that value is situational, temporary, and deeply human. You know, one of the most overlooked realities of the Depression is just how quickly hands-on skills became negotiable currency. Sewing, shoe repair, carpentry, gardening, and food preservation. These all turned into trade assets almost overnight. Practical skills, really, just replaced money in so many communities. For instance, a woman who could mend clothes might exchange a week of repairs for flour and lard, and a man who knew how to sharpen tools could secure eggs, milk, or firewood without ever touching cash. To apply this today, you really need to inventory your own practical abilities, honestly. Anything that solves a recurring problem for others can be traded, you know. The key step is making that skill visible within your local network long before a crisis hits, just as Depression families did within churches, markets, and neighborhoods. So why was food the backbone of all barter exchanges? Well, food was never just food. It was stability, morale, and survival all at once. Families who could grow, preserve, or store food became economic anchors in their communities. Home gardens weren't hobbies, they were trade engines. Excess produce was swapped for clothing repairs, medical help, or labor. Canning jars became long-term trade goods because, preserved food extended value across seasons. Applying this now means learning preservation methods that don't rely on modern infrastructure. Drying, fermenting, and root cellar storage allow you to trade surplus months after harvest, which dramatically increases your leverage in any barter economy. How trust replaced contracts and why reputation mattered more than wealth. Barter systems collapse without trust, and Depression communities understood this instinctively. Deals were often informal, but reputation traveled fast. A person who cheated once found themselves excluded permanently. This is a critical lesson modern survivalists often miss. In a cashless crisis, social capital becomes just as valuable as physical goods. Applying this today means practicing fair trades now, keeping your word, and understanding that long-term exchange networks outperform short-term gain. The strongest Depression-era barterers weren't the most aggressive negotiators, they were the most reliable ones. Why repair culture made survival sustainable. During the Depression, nothing was disposable. Repair wasn't thrift, it was survival logic. Fixing radios, bicycles, furniture, and clothing created constant trade opportunities. People who could extend the life of everyday objects became indispensable. To use this lesson today, focus on learning repair skills for items people rely on daily. Even basic abilities like patching fabric, replacing simple parts, or sharpening tools can translate directly into food, fuel, or assistance. The step most people skip is practicing these repairs regularly, so the skill becomes fast and confident, which is what makes it valuable under pressure. How informal barter networks outperformed centralized aid. Government relief existed, but it was slow and uneven. Informal barter networks filled the gaps faster than any centralized system. Families formed quiet agreements, rotating labor and sharing surplus based on seasonal needs. These networks worked because they were flexible and local. Applying this now means building small, resilient exchange circles rather than relying on large systems. A few households trading skills and goods consistently can weather disruptions far better than individuals acting alone. What modern survivalists misunderstand about bartering. Many people think bartering is about hoarding items to trade later. Depression history shows the opposite. The most successful barterers focused on renewability, skills, and relationships. Consumables were valuable, but abilities that could be repeated indefinitely were priceless. If you want to apply this lesson, prioritize learning skills that regenerate value. Teaching, repairing, producing, and preserving outperform stockpiled goods every time. Why these skills still matter now. Economic systems are fragile, but human needs are constant. Food, shelter, repair, and trust never go out of style. Depression-era families survived because they adapted quickly and understood value without money. These lessons are not relics, they are blueprints. If you take them seriously and practice them now, you won't be scrambling later. If this kind of deep historical survival knowledge matters to you, subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who still believes cash is the only currency, and keep this conversation alive. The past has already shown us how to survive the future.